Good morning. Welcome back to Market Monday. Thanks for joining me each week to keep up to date on what's happening in the housing market. So you've been hearing some rumors of things slowing down and settling a little bit, and they are softening a little bit. And we can tell this from our numbers this week. So we only have 1,163 houses available for buyers, and our coming soons, we only have 68. And that's a decrease of about 50 houses from last week. So we are starting to see some things soften, but we do continue to have a very active seller's market because we are definitely still running below our normal numbers, which is around 4,000 available houses. So buyers, interest rates are still low. Sellers, we still need more houses. So not a huge change, but definitely as we come into Thanksgiving and Christmas and January, we do expect this. So not unusual at all. Oregon currently has 23 active and coming soon available houses. Point Place has 32. This number's up a little bit. We did have 6 new listings last week and only 3 houses sold and closed and went off the market. So that number's a little bit higher this week. Oregon, 4 new listings last week, 3 new coming soon. So 7 new houses in that market. That's great news. But we did have 11 that went contingent or pending and 7 that actually closed and sold. So just to keep in mind, again, we had 50 new coming soons last week. That number was down from 88. And then we had 211 new listings. No, coming soons. We actually had 50 new coming soons last week. Sorry, got my numbers all mixed up. 50 coming soons in the last 7 days, 211 new listings in the last 7 days. So 261. Last week, we were at 271. So actually, it looks like we're down about 20 houses from last week coming on the market. But as I mentioned, as we go into the holidays and as we go into winter, our numbers, the number of new listings and coming soons per week does decrease a little bit. So very normal. Contingent, we had 245 that went off the market, accepted offers last week, 117 that are getting ready to close. And then we had 230 that closed this past week. And the week before, we actually had 272. So that was a little bit of a change in the number also. We talked about this one already. So let's talk about September. Home sales was up. The average sales price was up. The number of days on the market were down. You know what? We should have our October numbers now that I'm thinking about it. And the number of new listings was up for September. So hopefully next week I'll have October's number. Sometimes it takes them a little while to get them out to us. So just to talk a little bit about what is happening, you will hear in the headlines, one of the things is showing times. That showings are down on houses, and they are a little bit. So September, we were down to 175.5, and our monthly showing index over the summer and back in the spring, March, April, we were up to 283.8, 280.7. So definitely the number of showings from spring is down, but again, normal. It's normal to peak in the spring. But if we take a look at history, because it's hard to really compare 2021 to 2020, just because 2020 was so different for us with the lockdown and the pandemic. So a lot of the headlines are stemming from headlines that are projecting or talking about what's happening this year compared to last year. And we really need to go back farther if we're going to make comparisons. So if you can see on this slide, this little yellow dotted line, that's more of a normal market for us. So even though we're right about that same line at 175.5 showing time index, it's pretty normal. But yes, it is decreased from spring and summer. Yes, it is up a little bit from November and December. And actually, this is important because it is up from November and December of 2020. But if we go all the way back to January of 2020, which is where all the kind of craziness started, the housing shortage, when things were really ramping up, was the beginning of 2020. We're even still above those levels. So it's just important to make sure that we take the whole thing into perspective and that we're not just comparing numbers to 2020 because it makes things appear very different. So this particular slide is about the last 5 Septembers. So we went all the way back to 2017. Normal market, 2018 normal market, 2019 normal market. Our showing index was around 106 to 112. 2020, we were up to 184 because we had been bottlenecked the beginning of 2020 because of the pandemic. 2021, this housing shortage continues, but you can see that our index is still way above normal for a housing market. So definitely more showings than normal. And I guess my point is just to clarify, and I want to go through a couple more quick slides about foreclosures, but headlines these days to sell their platforms, they do more to terrify than to actually clarify for us. So that's why I'm here is to clear up some of these headlines. Usually if you see that headline and you go on to read the story, the story itself does not follow the actual headline, but the headline gets your attention and gets you hopefully to read the story. A lot of people don't read the story though. So they just go off the assumption of the headline. So you will hear foreclosure startups are up 49% over last year. This is one we've been talking about. Absolutely it is. There was a moratorium on foreclosures last year. So we definitely did not see the number of foreclosures that we do in a normal year. If we go back to August of 2021, you can see that we only had 8,348,000 foreclosure startups. And then if you go back to August of 2020, you'll see that we only had 5,600. So yes, August is up over August 21 is up over August of 20, as it should be, because there was the moratorium in 2020. And then if we go back to August of 2019, our last normal year in the housing market, you can see that in August of 2019, we had 28,000 startups. So it's going to take almost 500,000 foreclosures just for us to catch up because our numbers of foreclosures are down so much. But again, here was a headline. Foreclosures are shooting up. Is this a repeat of the early 2000s housing crisis? Well, it's not. And we can literally see why here on this slide. So normal foreclosures in a normal market for August is about 28,000. In August of 2021, we had almost like a third of what is normal. And again, it's going to take about 500,000 foreclosures for us to get caught up from the pandemic and when the moratorium was in place and the lower number of foreclosures that's happening. And that's happening because so many people have so much more equity in their home and people have been able to get out of those things that they were, the forbearances and things that they were putting in place because home prices are up, people's equity has increased, people own more of their homes. 30% of Americans actually own their home free and clear in the United States. So honest to gosh, don't trust these headlines. Make sure you're reading the stories, I guess is my point of view. Another one is they've been talking about how refinancing is going to drop in 2022. It's going to drop 62%. Well, it will drop. But again, it's because we've had an accelerated year in refinancing because of the low, historically low interest rates. So keep in mind these things when you're reading these headlines. They also put in this article about. However, mortgage origination for the purpose of buying a home are actually forecasted to rise about 9% to a record of 1.73 trillion in 2022. So we do expect 2022 to be a good year. They are projecting that mortgage rates are going to go up a little bit. Here's the chief economist and senior vice president for research and industry technology, MBA. He is saying 2022 should be another very strong market for the housing, or another strong year for the housing market. So keep this in mind. If you have questions I can answer for you, please feel free to reach out to me, or if you have a full-time realtor who's keeping up on what's happening in the market, please feel free to reach out to them. I hope you find this information helpful. If you need to see some of my past videos, please go on Google and Google me. You can also see them on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, my Facebook, Remax, Brenda Kilburn, Remax Preferred. There's everyday posting information about what's happening in the market, and just tips and tricks and things for your home. So have a wonderful week. I'll see you back here next Monday. God bless.